So, Matt, this is a solemn anniversary, 23rd anniversary of the attacks on September 11 that killed 3,000 or more Americans. Uh, the nation celebrated the anniversary this morning, remembered the anniversary with a reading of the names of the dead at Ground Zero in New York. In our conversation, we're going to talk about the continuing issues of terrorism and combating it. And I want to begin by asking you the obvious question that our viewers ask themselves and would ask you. Are we still vulnerable to terrorist attacks in the United States? And what do you see today as the biggest terror threats to the United States?
I do appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation with you, David, on on this day. In fact, I'd note that the Attorney General for us in the Department of Justice held a solemn ceremony this morning at 9 o'clock, and we had a moment of silence. Um, so the question is front of mind for all of us today. I will say it is front of mind for us in the National Security Division and our counterparts at the FBI every day. Look, I do think that we continue to face a very complex and dynamic threat landscape when it comes to terrorism. I've been doing this for a long time. I was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center 10 years ago. And I would say that the threat landscape from terrorism is as complicated and challenging as it has been during any of the years that I've worked on this challenge over the past 20 years, in part because it is so diversified. So we have really three vectors from which we face terrorism threats. There's the international side, where ISIS and Al Qaeda, while degraded, continue to pose a threat and continue to be determined to carry out an attack against the United States. We face state sponsors of terrorism, foremost among those, of course, is Iran. And then we face threats from within the United States, from domestic terrorism. And so from all of those vectors, we are concerned. For me, to answer your question, the biggest challenge we face, and I think this is a position that the intelligence community, the FBI, all agrees on, and that is that there are challenges posed by lone actors or very small cells, potentially inside the United States, that are very difficult for us to counter. And the reasons are, briefly, these individuals can be radicalized very quickly. They can typically be radicalized online using encrypted ways of communicating. And of course, inside the United States, they have easy access to military grade weapons. And these are just very difficult individuals for us to prevent from carrying out an act of terrorism. So I think that's, to me, the biggest challenge, which is, I think, in contrast to what we faced on 9/11, which is a much more complex type of plot hatched over many years, but still one that's very concerning and potentially quite lethal.